Got the best coaches in the game. We really ain't playing. We regroup up in the Slack chat where the coaches debrief. We be piecing these puzzles, occupy the chunk of the pie. Ain't no lie when we hit the block, helmet's casket is top. You be seeing helmet after helmet, helmet after helmet. First place, second place, fifth place, eighth place, 12th place, 15, 16, 20. So many helmets, you got blurred vision, we got too many. Get the check. Oh man, shit. They got us fucked up. Army, regroup. We pledge always to have that edge. We don't fire warning shots. Competition just dropped. We locked and loaded before lock. Whatever the time, yeah. Do you even correlate?
Being the best requires a willingness to outwork your competition. There's always someone smarter, faster, sharper, more naturally gifted to come around.
Hey, how's everybody doing today? Man, I love that freaking intro. Just gets you pumped, huh? Ready to talk about the slate today.
It's a pretty dope intro. I'll give them credit.
I know they did a good job with it. Definitely gets you going. But everyone, I thought we were gonna have Flynn on with us tonight, but unfortunately he got dragged into work. So it's gonna be me and Cam again for you tonight, and we got a lot different slate than we had last night. So Cam, how you doing today? Nice to have a day off of work.
Yeah, listen, everyone in here, if you go to Olive Garden and you get soup and salad, I don't like you. I'm sorry. I don't. Who goes to a restaurant just to eat soup and salad?
Hey, and breadsticks, man.
I'm judging. I'm sorry. Nah.
Best thing,
I'm
though.
judging. It's like, who goes out for this?
Make it at home.
You can just get a meal with it, you know? Get a meal with it. Like, I'll bring you as much soup and salad as you want, but just don't just get that. From me to you. If y'all could all do me that favor, I would be very appreciative of that.
Hey, Cam, who's on the back of your jersey?
Nobody. I had the same jersey, but it was a Mario Lemieux one, but it got stolen. I got robbed like a year ago, and then my uncle gave me his. But there's no one on the back of this one. I love this shirt though.
Yeah, it's looking nice. What do you got for a cap on?
Steelers.
Oh boy.
Pittsburgh representing.
I don't know if we're friends anymore.
You need someone to play hardcore with you in COD, man. You're gonna need me eventually.
I know. You're right. I mean, you are doing this live stream with me, so it's beneficial. I guess I'll keep you around.
I'm a good time. I'm a good addition to any party.
For sure. All right, guys. So we'll get into the games tonight. First off, if you're not a DFS Army VIP member, go ahead and sign up. I actually forgot to edit something, so it's 10% off a VIP membership now. But that 10% off stays until you cancel your membership. So as long as you're active, you're good to go. Lock your price in and help us out. Join in DFS Army, chat with us, play a whole bunch of different sports, learn a new sport. We're hoping to grow hockey. That's kind of why I started this. So hopefully we can play a little better with it, and it'll be good to go.
There it is. All right. You ready to get into this?
Yeah, let's get into the slate. Like I said, it's completely different from yesterday. We actually have some stars and scrubs on the slate. First off, we'll go over some injury news. Am I echoing on your end? I hear an echo.
Let me see.
Hold on, guys. Let me get these.
That better?
Yeah, it's better.
There we go. Yeah, the headphones were jacking up for a second. I tried taking them off, but I got it back.
All right. So we'll start off with some injury news for you guys. Probably the biggest one of the slate, Austin Matthews. He's playing tonight, back on the top line. He practiced full this morning, practiced yesterday, so he looks good to go. I mean, if he wasn't,
I like your point that they're not going to rush him back. So like, feel free to play in the night. Don't let that like, oh, he's hurt, get to you. I agree with you. We're talking about that pre-show that like they beat the Oilers handedly both times. There's no need to rush him here. You're going to get a good Austin Matthews tonight, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they beat him 3-0 the last two games. So I don't think that if he wasn't 100%, they wouldn't bring him back. You don't want to risk an injury, especially with a shorter season, playing a lot more back-to-backs and like.
And they got playoffs on lock, honestly, already.
Oh yeah,
like they're making the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. Next one up, Evgeny Kuznetsov. He's back for Washington. I don't really love that matchup anyway, but we'll break into it. He's slated to probably be back on the second line, I'm guessing, but they shuffled up like all their lines. For Colorado, Cale Makar and Bowen Byram are both out again. So we're looking at Girard and Taves probably getting another 25 plus minutes tonight, and we'll get into those. Connor Garland's playing for Arizona. He missed last game, so it's kind of a bump for Arizona's offense. He's been good all season, but they've been scuffling lately. Jaden Schwartz remains out for St. Louis. David Krejci's expected to play for Boston, centering that second line. A news that came probably a couple hours ago, Zach Parise, he's out for Minnesota. And it's not he's a healthy scratch. The coach is not happy with his offensive performance. So we'll have to see who we get on that line for him tonight. Colton Parayko remains out for St. Louis on D. Alex Chason's out for suspension for the Oilers. I mean, he doesn't really make any impact, but it does bring up James Neal on the top line and the top power play. So we'll get into that a little bit later. Hampus Lindholm, he's out for the second straight game for Anaheim. Matt Grzelcyk, he's projected to play for Boston. Dominic Cahoon, I saw was a game time decision. I don't think he's going to play tonight for Edmonton, so that's going to shake up their lines even more. And that's all we got for injuries. So make sure you guys keep your questions in the comment section, and we'll get through those as the stream goes on, and we will address them either as they come in or at the end of the show before we wrap it up. So make sure you guys add those comments in. And Cam, you want to go right into the games?
Before we get the games, I'll get a little bit of the slate feel here. This is one of those slates where you got all the studs, and you're like, well, who do I play? The answer is always all of them, as many of them as you can. Do not try to get cute with it. You could get Connor McDavid, you could get Austin Matthews, you get McKinnon, you go get them. I'm going to start every show with this when it's like this. I'm going to drill it into all your heads that I don't care that they're 70% owned. They should be way more expensive, and no one has their ceiling on a game-to-game basis. Nobody.
Definitely agree with that. I mean, it's harder tonight because there's three like big studs, so you kind of gotta pick and choose. Like I'm playing two of them in my main cash lineup, and gonna leave one of them off. But like I think because all three of them at center are on the slate tonight, I think it'll reduce their ownership a little bit. They'll probably
there's a lot of options.
Yeah, I mean they'll probably still be like 40 to 60%, but we're not going to get someone that's 90% just because people are going to mix and match all of them.
Austin Matthews should be a little lower on than that. He'll probably still exceed 30, 40, but he's been like 70, 80. I think him just coming back is going to take some people off. Not everybody, but some.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely gonna use some value, especially at the wing and on defense, but it's definitely easy. I mean, my cash lineup came together pretty easily, and I paid up for two studs, paid up for a goalie, and still found a lineup that I liked. So it's definitely possible. We'll talk about the value once we go into all the games here. We do have one comment before we start the breakdowns. Madden Dad of 3 says, do you use the optimizer when making your NHL lineups or do them manually? Personally, I hand build all my lineups for hockey, mainly because I can put exactly what stacks I want. I can put exactly what guys I want. And then I just mix and match with value and one-offs. If I'm making like 20 lineups, I usually still hand build all of them. What about you?
I'm a pure cash player with NHL, so I play one lineup a night. So that is definitely
so you hand build it. Yeah, I mean, hand building your cash lineup is definitely the way to go for hockey. Don't get us wrong. Obviously, Domination Station is great. I use it pretty much every night to try to see if there's value that I might be missing. I'll run 150 lineups with it.
It's very necessary for like 150 max MME. You should be optimizing your lineups. But if you're doing like a 20 max and you got the time, I definitely recommend hand building it. But for 150, you're gonna have to opto that.
Yeah, and basically, if you look at our sheets, take a look at our top stacks, read the GPP section. Normally, our top stacks are going to be your primary stacks on the stacking tool, and the ones down in the description are going to be throw them in your secondary. You don't necessarily, because of pricing, the exact guys that we like might not work just because of there's a lack of value on the slate, and if it tries to force guys in, but definitely use it. Like I said, when I'm even building my cash lineup, I'll do a dry run of 100 lineups, kind of see where the DS is at with players and projections, and maybe there might be a value guy that I'm kind of overlooking that he's popping on Domination Station. So then I'll go back and I'll look at our research station and just see like, all right, well, why is he popping up so much? Why is he projected so high? Is he shooting a lot? Is he getting a lot of ice time? So that's kind of what I do. And then once I figure that out, I'll go in and lock like 2 or 3 of my core guys in, throw some likes and adores on people, and then run it again and see what I get, see if anything changes. And that's basically what I do with Domination Station to help me out with my cash lineup. If you got nothing else to add,
get into these games, big boy.
Yeah, let's get into them. So we'll start off here with Capitals at the Bruins. This game, I'm getting a tough read on this game. It's 6 total. Both teams don't really allow like a ton of goals. Vanek has been good for Washington. I think it's Rask for Boston tonight. And he's hit or miss, but like with 2 high-powered offenses and 2 pretty good defenses, like 2 teams that don't allow a ton of goals, it's more so a GPP option for me. But what are your thoughts on this game?
In terms of like the studs in this game, I'm gonna have to second the opinion of like I would mostly do that with GPPs, as like there's 2 good goalies in this game. Washington's actually has the least amount of expected goals allowed over the last 10 games on the slate, so that's gonna be tough for Boston to produce. And we already know that like Boston's numbers aren't like the best right now, but like we know what that team's capable of defensively. Like we could be, if they're not doing good defensively, we know they're underperforming. So I think this is a tough one, especially with 2 good goalies on top of actually 2 solid hockey teams. The value, I would be looking for value here, just like a cheap guy like Connor Sheary's on the top line. He's been playing good hockey. He's getting like 14 to 15 minutes. He's basically in. I like him on the top line. And DeBrusque got priced down on DraftKings. He's 3,400. He hasn't been that cheap all year. He's playing in the top 6. He could always get you. He could get you a point on the board. It's not hard for him to get 6.5 points and hit 2x.
Yeah, definitely. If I'm in cash, I guess if you wanted to go with a stud in cash, I would look at probably Pastrnak. 8 points, 23 shots in his last
definitely
5.
Pastrnak to Ovi.
It'd be him and McAvoy for me.
Ovi's getting old. He doesn't play 20 minutes consistently enough anymore.
Who's that, McAvoy?
Ovi's minutes are all over the place.
Yeah, and they're changing up like all their lines every game. It's really frustrating. I mean, other than I don't mind the goalies for tournaments, just because both of them are probably going to see a ton of shots. But for me, it's kind of a stay away game, especially in cash games. It's basically Pastrnak or McAvoy for me in cash. And I'm not really not really looking anywhere else.
Yeah, for me, it would definitely be Sheary and DeBrusque. I think they're both too cheap relative to their upside. But that's it. I take that one piece and then go take your value and get out of there. I'd rather play any of the three centers and Leon Draisaitl over Pasta and Ovi tonight.
Yeah, and we'll get into some other games that have a lot more offensive promise than this one. I can see this one being like a 3-2 game, and like we've seen Boston, they're like third and fourth line, like would score the only goals of the game, and like no one's playing them in cash, and barely anyone's playing them in tournaments. So
Capitals got depth too. There's a lot of places they could come from both sides. That's why I like trying to just pick a punt and go with it.
yeah, you're looking for your value there. There's really not much on this game that I want to talk about personally. Yeah, anything else you want to add to this game?
Boston's second line with Ritchie, Krejci, and DeBrusque is pretty cheap. So, like, if them for GPPs, I'll mind them because, like, I don't like Boston one's upside enough to build around them. I mean, like, that's the type of stack that takes up all your salary. Like, that you're, like, confident that stack's going to crush it. There's no margin for error. They all have to have amazing games. And I think baking on that whole line to have, like, 2 to 3 points tonight's more wishful thinking. You'll get it at low ownership, but if I'm taking GPPs here, I want some value from it. I'm not looking low on Boston one. You could get some value stacks around Ovi with like Sheary and like Veron on the power play, but I would stay away from Boston one with that in its entirety.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Krejci coming back for Boston is going to help out that second line there for them. So they're going to be so low owned where if they score a goal or two, then you're going to be way ahead of everybody else.
Like when in cash, you like, but it's like a stock market. When players' price crash, you kind of think about playing them more. And DeBrusque has been sitting at 4,000, like low fours to mid fours all year, and now he's down to 34. That's the time to buy it to me. Especially Krejci coming back, I like it even more.
Yeah, and like DeBrusque has shown upside in the past. He hasn't really done a whole lot this year, but he's still a good player. And getting Krejci back is going to help a lot too.
Absolutely, yeah, that's big. That's big for him. He's probably, as of it stands right now, until we start talking about more things. I got my value wingers in mind, but he's probably my standalone favorite one. Like that's just too cheap for Jake DeBrusque.
Oh yeah. Let's see. We got nothing else on this game. We might as well just go to the next one. That's going to be very high owned. In Toronto and Edmonton.
Yes, it is.
Both teams projected over 3. Actually, Edmonton went down a little bit from when I looked this morning, but I think that's because Matthews is back.
Yeah, they're down to 3.1 right now.
Yeah,
they're still there.
Anderson's back in goal. Yeah, I think they were like 3-2 or 3-3 earlier, but I mean, not enough to make a huge difference. But question. Hey, perfect time to get on this game with the question. DFO showing James Neal on the top line with McDavid, power play 1, 2.7 on DraftKings. What do you think?
I don't mind him as a punt, but just like be aware of the fact that like he's not going to play 16, 17 minutes all with McDavid. They're going to rotate some wingers on that line. Now, it's still a great boost to his upside, 2,700 to be on power play 1 and at least guarantee getting some time with McDavid. But like just you can't lock and load him and think like, oh yeah, I'm getting a winger that's about to play 17 minutes with McDavid. Like it could go bad and they could take him off the line in the game. I mean, James Neal's washed.
Yeah, I don't mind it if you're doing it in tournaments, but if we look here, I'll share the screen.
If you need the punt and cash, I don't hate it. I mean, 2,700 with McDavid and on a line and a power play, even at 13 minutes, is probably still too cheap. But I would not be looking to jam him. I would more be like, okay, I need to fit these studs. I like McDavid. Maybe Neal gets an assist on one of them. I might as well just play him at this point. He's not a guy that I'm like, okay, I'm going to start my line off with him because he's such good value.
Yeah, and I mean, we're looking at Neal's been like hit or miss lately. Like he'll be a healthy scratch one game, then he'll play the next game. Then he'll be a healthy scratch again, and then he'll play again. But for how cheap he is, like I don't mind like if you're using Connor McDavid, I don't mind it for a value piece because that'll let you get say like an Austin Matthews or Nathan McKinnon in the lineup too. Might even be able to get you both with all the value that we do have. But honestly, with the way McDavid's kind of been playing lately, I'd rather just play Austin Matthews on this side of the game, and he's one of my studs that I'm playing in cash.
I will say for the Edmonton side, recency bias is a hell of a drug in the DFS industry, and I think a lot of donkeys are going to be real big on the fact that Edmonton scored 0 goals in the last 2 games. So McDavid's like Matthews is probably still going to be pretty chalky, but I think you're going to get him at less than what he should be tonight, which I think they should always be 100%. So you always get that to me, but I got to be realistic. I think you could get them both at less than 50% tonight, maybe, and that's really low owned for them and cash.
Yeah, and if you look at, I'm looking at our cheat sheet where we have the starting goalies. Anderson, he's just coming back, so like he might have a little rust on him. So like it wouldn't surprise me if Edmonton scores like 2 goals in the first period, like real quick. But I mean, he's 2.6 goals against in his last 10 games, and he's got a 911 save percentage, which like is pretty good. But like you're facing Edmonton, who hasn't scored a goal in 2 games, and they're probably pissed off. So it's hard. It's hard not to like McDavid. Just for me personally, I do think Anderson is a better goalie than Mike Smith, so that's why I'm kind of leaning towards Matthews.
And the Edmonton Tide side is definitely due for some regression after those 0 goal games. Like they're gonna score more than 1 goal tonight. I'll bet my life on it.
Yeah. What do you think about their second line moving Nugent Hopkins down with Draisaitl?
That's where I would go for GPPs. Like my philosophy with cash is honestly the exact opposite for GPPs. It's like I love Connor McDavid. No one has a ceiling that him and Austin Matthews and McKinnon have. They just don't. But in GPPs, you're paying for them to hit their ceiling. You're not paying for them to hit value. And I think rostering them at like 25% GPPs a lot of the time just isn't a good move because like when you're doing that, that's you saying like, yeah, I think Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid have a 25% chance to hit their ceiling. And in reality, that's never true ever. Unless they played against like 15-year-olds or something. That's just those odds are never that good. So for that line, going back to that, I think they're going to go way too low owned. I think Leon's going to benefit from having someone to help drive offense from him. I think he's a great hockey player, but he does have trouble at 5v5 generating his own offense, and that has definitely been showing with him and Cahoon and Yamamoto. And I think having Nuge there, it's good for Nuge, get him a new line. He has been doing great with McDavid recently, and I think it's going to be good for Draisaitl having someone who could actually drive play instead of him just hoping to get in the line, make a possession, and make a quick pass and take a shot.
Yeah, and I mean, with Cahoon probably not playing tonight, like that's probably going to give some extra minutes to the top 2 lines anyway, because their bottom 6 is not that good.
Yamamoto's too cheap tonight too at 35. I like his upside a lot more as well with Nugent Hopkins on that line. That bumps his odds for a secondary assist very much to me compared to when it's Tyler Ennis or Dominique Cahoon, who are not good hockey players.
Yeah, and I know what I've been doing the last probably 2 weeks is playing Nurse and Barry. Do you have a lean over one over the other?
I like Darnell Nurse as more of like the overall hockey player and like floor, but the upside's Barry because he gets the majority of the power play one time. Sometimes Nurse can manage to sneak his way out there, but Edmonton kind of runs one power play. And then say like the team clears it out of the zone with 40 seconds left, they'll take Chison off for RV. They'll take maybe Barry off for Nurse. But my lean would be Barry just because I know he's going to be out there on like when that faceoff drops and there's 2 minutes on that power play, Tyson Barry's going to be on the ice.
Yeah, I agree there. And I mean, both teams are taking about 3.5 penalties a game on the season. And both teams are like Edmonton's drawing almost 4 penalties a game. So there's gonna be power play chances for both sides in this game. where we can definitely stack up their top power play units and potentially get all the goals in that game.
And over the last 10 games, these two teams are bottom two on the slate in scoring chances allowed. They by a lot. No one else is over 26 and a half really, and they're both pushing. They're over 28. So that's a good bit above the rest of the teams on this slate. So no goalies here. No goalies in this game.
For now, I do have Anderson as a tournament goalie on my cheat sheet, but that's
minimal exposure tournament play. Like if you're stacking Toronto with no Edmonton run back, then play him. But if you have any exposure to the Edmonton side, please do not play, and vice versa. Don't play the goalies.
He's like 150 lineups, throw like 2% on him to get him in like one or two lineups. But other than that, like
he's a minimal exposure play, no more than 5-10%.
And then
for sure.
I prefer the Toronto side for a few reasons. One, I don't think Mike Smith is good. I think he's playing way above the mean right now. And Edmonton, I mean, if you look at the research station, they're 27th in goals against in their last 10 home games. They're allowing 3.3 goals a game. If you look at So what I really love about the research station, and I will show it to you guys because I think it's very important, and I think it's something that people don't really look at all that much, but it's the 2-year versus opponent, and then it has the 2-year home or road against the opponent. Look at what Toronto's done against Edmonton in the last 2 seasons. 7-2-1, 3.6 goals, 4, and only 2.3 goals against. Like, I don't know. And even on home road is the same. Like, Toronto's just been dominating Edmonton. I mean, both their penalty kills have been awful against each other, so they're allowing penalty goals. Both power play units are Toronto's got a 44% power play against Edmonton in the last 2 years. Like, that's absurd.
This is just a good game. Like, don't take the goalies from it. And if you guys are bettors, I would not. The Maple Leaf side scares me for no other reason than I've played DFS for quite some time, and I'm a GPP player for some sports, and I know everybody is gonna be like, oh, Toronto's beat them 3-0 the last 2 games with no Matthews, so they're gonna beat them more because they have Matthews, and that it normally ends up being the opposite that way. It's like, oh, Edmonton somehow pulled this game out. Like what should happen doesn't a lot. But I think we're all aware of that at this point if you play DFS for more than a week.
Yeah, and I mean, I can see this game hitting the over. Its totals at I think 6.5 right now. I could see a 4-3 game or 5-4, 5-3. It's going to be high scoring, so I do really like the top Toronto line. I think with Matthews back, that helps Thornton and Marner a lot because Tavares he's old. He's not producing like he was. So I think with Matthews centering those 2 guys, it kind of boosts them up a little bit. And Thornton's still really cheap. He's not going to shoot. So he is not a floor play. He's a assist upside play because I watched
only playable with Austin Matthews.
Yeah, don't play him as a one-off. But if you want to do a little mini stack,
definitely take him if you're playing Matthews.
Yeah. His passing. Have you seen his passing? Dude, his passing is just absurd.
Who, Joey?
Yeah, he puts it
Joey
right.
or Austin?
Joey.
I hate on him a lot. I just think he anytime he hits, I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me with this. But he doesn't have to do a lot on that line. He doesn't have to chase a lot of the pucks because they have good control. He doesn't have to back check a lot because they're always in their offensive zone. So, he just keeps producing. I'm ready for him to be priced up, and I don't have to think about him anymore. I'm so tired of thinking about playing Joe Thornton. It is my least favorite part of this hockey season, honestly, is trying to be like, do I play him tonight? Because it's gonna go bad. Like you don't play him, you're gonna be mad at yourself, and then when you play him, he doesn't hit, you're gonna be mad at yourself. There's just so much downside to it to me.
Yeah, I mean, he's coming up on FanDuel too. He's 4,900, so I'm not even touching him on FanDuel really.
Yeah,
Unless
thank God. Yeah.
Toronto won. Like if you're stacking him, then include him because he'll probably get an assist. But on a one-off for 4,900, there's no point. There's other value out there that is a lot cheaper, like in the 3,000s that I like over him in cash.
There's two things to look for when you're rostering players in DFS outside of value, and it's their ice time allotment, which means their power play time, and do they play in the top 6, and it's how much do they shoot the puck and get peripherals and actually capable of producing fantasy points. And Joe Thornton is one of those guys that falls into he has the great allotment and the power play time, but his peripherals are bad, and those plays drive me nuts. And like it could be like like some guy on the third line who shoots really well, but he only gets like 14 minutes and no power play time. It's like, if he had better allotment, I would like him a lot more. And that's my thing with Thornton. I love his allotment. It's elite. It does not get any better than Toronto 1 and power play 1. That is as good of a fantasy spot you can be in. But just from the other side of it, with the peripherals, it's just not there. It's not there at all. He just has a terrible floor. He could score 0 points and it wouldn't surprise you at all.
Yeah, I mean, he's got more than one shot twice in 11 games this year, so you're not playing him for a floor, that's for sure. But I think it's enough on Toronto 1. So one guy that caught my eye is Willie Nylander. What are your thoughts on him?
Is he still pushing below 5K on DraftKings?
Yeah, he's cheap on draft. I think he's
his price has been he's been one of those guys I've been keeping an eye on that's been dipping, and he's been producing at his new price as well. He's only 49 on DK. I don't hate him. Not a guy I'm rushing to get in, but if your build kind of gets to around where you have a spot for around the $48,000 to $5,000 winger, he would be very high in my preference range in that. Not a dude I'm looking to build around, but if like I jam my value in my studs and I'm capable of getting him, I'm not gonna feel bad about that. I'll enjoy that very much.
Yeah, don't play him on FanDuel. Don't touch him. He's 6,600 on FanDuel.
What is he? Oh
66.
My gosh, yeah, nah. GPP FanDuel only in a line stack, but he's viable in DK and cash at that price. Like I said, don't start with him. Don't have no player slots filled in and then put Nylander in and build around them. But if you get McKinnon and Matthews and Gerard and your goalie, and you're like, oh shit, I could play a $5,000 winger, he would be very high on my preference range for that range of players.
Yeah, I mean, when Evander Kane is 300 more on FanDuel, like why would you play Nylander who's with Matthews back, he might not even score, and at that price he needs a goal. Like he's got 4 goals his last 3 games, but other than that, like before then he had 1 game above.
He'll play less minutes tonight than he has been because Matthews is back. So there is that downgrade. He's still too cheap regardless of that, but that he does get a little bit of a downgrade to me with Matthews being back, because I think he was on power play 1 whenever Matthews.
Yeah, he was.
I think it's split again now. I think it's back to that. Before we get off this game, I hope no one here enjoys how Toronto does their power play. It should be all the studs and then rotate people in. It should be Matthews, Tavares, Marner, Hyman, and Morgan Riley. That should be the top power play. It is their galaxy brain in it with what they're doing right now. It's just because they're winning games and they're like, oh, let's get our young guys some high value minutes. But like when it comes down to the nitty gritty of it, this is not how it should be. Come playoff time, hopefully they load up and learn, because this does not work. They could be better than they are if they would do what they're supposed to do with their power play.
Yeah, I mean, Nylander's only played 13 minutes in the 2 games against Edmonton, and he was getting top power play, so the minutes aren't really there. We'll probably stay around that with Matthews back tonight because he won't get that extra power play time.
Agreed. All right, this is the best game. That's why we spent so long on this. I promise you guys we're not gonna get into all the games like that much. There's not that many good plays to go around, but that game's a hell of a game to attack tonight.
Yeah, That's what we called.
I mean, it's the only game with a 6.5 total. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The next game is kind of where I'm finding some value. The Blues and the Ducks. Blues implied total 3.1, Ducks 2.5. We know the Ducks are bad, but they have some guys on their team that I really like, and like I never thought I'd play a Duck in cash, but there's two guys.
Once you start playing DraftKings, you'll learn. You'll see.
Yeah, because they're always cheap. They got promise. I mean, we'll get into it, but I like their third line a lot, especially for value of Comtois, Lundestrom, Raquel, throw in Fowler there. If you guys missed it, Hampus Lindholm's gonna miss this game again, second game. Cam Fowler played like 27 minutes last game, and he's still only 4,700 on FanDuel. I'm not sure what his DraftKings price is. We'll look right now.
32. Wait, good upside. And also, you said Anaheim 3 would be Comtois. I believe it's Zegras, Lundestrom, and Raquel, not Comtois, Lundestrom, and Raquel.
They took him off.
Looks like Comtois on first line with Getzlaf and Max Jones.
Okay, because that's what it was last game, and then I looked at Left Wing Lock this morning, and it's got him on the third line again, based on the warm-ups from last game.
I'm a DFO guy, but they have that.
Yeah.
So that does. I do think Zegras is a good play regardless. He's going to get his first NHL point soon. He hit the shot bonus last game as well. He's only 2,800 tonight. I would prefer the winger who is actually on the line with Raquel and Lundestrom. I'm just going to bank on it being Zegras, but I like him regardless because he gets the power play time too. But that kid's waiting to get on the score sheet. I can't believe he doesn't have a point in his first 4 games. And all he has to do is get an assist, and he basically 2X's off of that. So I love him tonight. James Neal, I will give him the fact that his allotment's a lot better than Zegras's. But I like Zegras a lot more as the player, and I would be a lot more happy to lose with him and win with him than I would with Neal.
Yeah, and I mean, so looking at the most recent game, so they just played St. Louis. It was a 5-4 game. Looking at the line distribution, it looks like the Deslauriers, Steele, and Grant line played 17%. Comtois, Lundestrom, and Raquel played 13%. Silverberg, Henrik, and Zegras played 13%. And then they had another line of Raquel, Zegras, and Lundestrom that played 11%. So it looks like they did shuffle up some of their lines in game. So like Zegras played with that Raquel and Lundestrom. I don't mind his time on ice. He played 17 minutes last game for 2,800 on DraftKings. Go for it. I mean, it's value. Get some studs in there with him. But do you like
my exposure for DraftKings? Oh, what is that? Why can I hear it twice? All right, there it goes. It went away. I'm sorry, guys. It would definitely be Raquel and Zegras. I like their shot upside. I think they're good hockey players. And if they play together, I like that as a mini stack a lot. For cash, I would definitely only play one of them. But definitely preference to Zegras at his price. But Raquel, is he still rocking the mid-4s?
He's 47 on actually, no, he's lower. He's 4,000.
Yeah, Raquel's 4,000. He's definitely in play at 4,000. He's definitely in play at 4,000.
Lundestrom, he's 2,700 on FanDuel or on DraftKings.
I like my issue with him would be that I like the other 3 centers too much, and I don't really want to waste a center spot on him. Paying down at center is really never a good move, in my opinion, unless like it's slate dependent and it's kind of what you have to do. But this is not one of those slates.
He had 3 goals on 4 shots last game, but other than that, he hasn't really done like all that much. 4 shots his last 2 games though, so maybe he'll start to score a little bit more. But 5 goals in 15 games for someone like him, he's not going to keep that up. And like 3 of the 5 goals came in 1 game. On FanDuel, it's a little different. He's 3,300 on FanDuel, and with the 2 utility spots, I don't hate going there in cash.
And FanDuel's a different animal for sure because you really can't fit 4 stud centers in there. You can't play 4 of them. So like I could definitely I'll put him in viable range on FanDuel, but I don't touch him on DraftKings and cash.
Yeah, like he's in my preliminary cash lineup now. But yeah, we've talked way too much about the Ducks. One last guy though, I like Getzlaf. He's been shooting a ton, but he's not scoring. He's 4,400 on FanDuel. I do have him on my player rank sheet. Let's see. He's 4,400, 2 points, 24 shots and blocks in the last 5 games. Jordan Binnington, he hasn't really been all that great. So if you watch,
I don't trust him tonight in cash. Especially on the road and in California. The road games in California are a little bit tougher.
My issue, so like he's cheap on FanDuel, so people are gonna play him. He's gonna be chalk. I mean, Vinny Husso was the chalk.
Oh yeah, that's right. His price has been way too low on FanDuel all year, right? That's been a reoccurring problem if I recall.
Yeah, and that's why I have him as a cash option. He's 7,500 on FanDuel.
Yeah, that's viable. Okay, I could live with it. Don't pay 8,000 for him on DraftKings, but I take the risk at 75 for sure. Especially with you wanting to play studs, that's cheap for a goalie who could win a game.
Yeah, there's definitely one other guy I think that we like a lot better than Binnington, and we'll get into that later on. But is there anything on the St. Louis side that you're interested in tonight?
Zach Sanford's getting line one. He's one of those guys that falls into good allotment, bad peripheral. So if it came down to it and you liked him as a punt, he's not the worst punt on the slate. I don't think he's the best, but he's viable. Everyone else is kind of in a price range where I don't want to touch them. I think Jordan Kyrou is a great hockey player. I wish he got more ice time. And yeah, he's not even on power play 1 anymore, which is whack. But outside of that, I just think St. Louis is just too pricey for me on DraftKings for me to really want to get into any of them. And John Gibson's looking like the goalie tonight, and he's a good goaltender. And the Anaheim Ducks have good defensive performances here and there, and St. Louis isn't known for the offensive onslaught. So they're not really a team I'm looking at tonight. That would be large field GPP type of thing, but in terms of just being optimal, nothing from this game really screams optimal to me outside of Zegras and Raquel if it fits.
Yeah, and I mean on the St. Louis side, I do have a little interest in their top line, Sanford, O'Reilly, and Kyrou. They have 8 goals in the last 5 games, 36 shots. That's pretty good. The thing with O'Reilly is like he's so streaky. Yeah, I don't like his I like Kyrou's 4,300 on FanDuel, so
he's like a peripheral guy.
Yeah. What about one guy that caught my eye for them, and this is basically one of the only guys probably besides Sanford or Kyrou that I play in cash. I wouldn't play more than 1 blue in cash, and it's really just for value. But Marco Scandella kind of caught my eye. Any thoughts on him?
I could get some thoughts on him. I could definitely get some.
He's 4,000.
Oh yeah.
On FanDuel.
Yeah, I like him a lot at 2,700 for sure. 25, 23 minutes last games, getting the blocks. Yeah, absolutely. I will say that Anaheim is kind of one of those, there's certain teams where block upside is limited because the certain teams have bad coursing. They just don't take a lot of shot attempts. And a team like the Ducks definitely falls into that category for me. So that's a slight downgrade. But at 4,000, I'm not really looking at that on FanDuel. But for 2,700 on DraftKings, I think that's definitely worth a look for sure.
Yeah, he got the block bonus on DraftKings last game. He had 3 blocks. He's definitely benefiting from Parayko.
Yeah, and he has 3 shots in those games too.
And you'll see
for sure. But hey, Parayko's still out, so.
And he's hit the block bonus on DraftKings in 3 of the last 4 games. So for what do you see? He's 2,700 on DraftKings.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely in play to me.
So I like that for value, getting another stud in there. Other than that, Binnington, really, if you want to throw him in, he's going to be chalky in cash. I like couple other guys better for cash, but I don't really have a problem with it on FanDuel. My biggest concern is the Ducks don't shoot enough. So if he allows a couple goals, especially they gave up last game, then he's not going to score well at all. And then if your studs don't perform, then you're probably not going to cash. But other than that, I got nothing else on this game. The last 2 games I like a lot more than this one.
3 games we got left, but yeah, I'll agree. This one might be my least favorite game, honestly. Ducks in St. Louis. That would be my least favorite out of the 6 we got.
Yeah, it's definitely a lower scoring game. It's probably going to – I mean, it was 5-4 last game, but who knows? It could be 5-4 again. I mean, if you want to stack them in tournaments, if you're making 100 lineups, get pieces of both teams in stacks because if they have another 5-4 game, if you get the guys who score the goals and get the assists, then you'll be cruising up the leaderboards. And no one's going to play them. I mean, no one's going to stack it. No one's going to game stack it.
Yeah, nah. So sub 5%, everybody.
If you game stacked it last, some good money. But we'll get.
I'm done trying to convince you guys to put your hard-earned money on Arizona or St. Louis and Anaheim players.
I mean, just a couple guys for value. That's about it. But we'll get into Minnesota and Vegas. Minnesota implied 2.6. Vegas implied 3. All right, so first off, I'm going Marc-Andre Fleury. I'm going him in cash. Like, if I'm paying up, he's the cash goalie that I'm playing. I think Minnesota, they're due for some negative regression. I just don't think, like, that Zuccarello line looks really good. Jordan Greenway's been playing a little bit better. But
they're shooting like 30% or something. It's ridiculous.
It's definitely not sustainable.
They are not maintainable at what they're doing right now. Yeah.
Vegas plays great defense. And Fleury's just a stud.
Yeah, Vegas is not a team that really attack against ever in any situation. They're a tough team. They're a tough team to beat.
You're not getting anything good with Minnesota on the power play. They're terrible. Vegas penalty kills the best.
They're
in the league.
Vegas too, which is a big downside as well.
Yeah, so like Fleury, if I'm paying up for cash goalie, Fleury's my guy. We'll start with the Minnesota side because we'll probably talk a little bit more about Vegas. So, is there anybody who interests you on the Minnesota side of this game?
I'm not chasing Minnesota too. I love Kaprizov. I think he's an amazing hockey player, and I think you could see him being a $6,000 player in the future. But like that line, it's not sustainable. I'm not looking to pay a price for what they're producing at when they're not supposed to be producing at it. So that one's a fave for me. Eriksson Ek, Greenway, Fiala, that's at least a line with some talent on it. I think Eriksson Ek's a pretty underrated hockey player. He's had an amazing year. Fiala's great, and Greenway's an okay complimentary guy. So that would be my line for them if I had any exposure to this game. Outside of that, like there's just like their power play is literally just a line. It's literally just never mind. They got Ek instead, but I don't like the power play here. They're in Vegas. Playing in Vegas is so tough. You know, they're boys. You know what I mean? You want to go out, they want to party. The dudes who live in Vegas, you know, that's their life. They don't go out there and every time they're back and go nuts. But when you live in Minnesota, if you go to Las Vegas, you're gonna have some fun in Las Vegas.
Oh, for sure.
It's probably the toughest place to play in the NHL. Honestly, it's the biggest home ice advantage in the NHL to me.
Yeah, I had a time I was out in Vegas for the baseball winter meetings, and a bunch of the guys were going to the game, and I'm like, I really wanted to. Then I looked at the ticket prices, and I'm like, so it was a little steep. Kind of wish I did to say like that I went to it, but I wasn't trying to pay $300 for like nosebleeds. But yeah, it was electric. Like I watched.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I'm seeing some questions here, so I'm just gonna see if there's anything on this game that we can go over. If not, we'll check them at the end of the stream here. So William says that left wing lock, Minnesota 2 and 3 are 2 of the hottest for line score. Yeah, but I think they're just shooting way better than they're going to.
There are certain things in NHL DFS that in reality don't seem like noise, but actually are. Like, I'm not telling you that a good line matchup matters, okay? If you know that Tavares is going to go up against the bottom six the whole game for Toronto, there's a good edge to that. But you trying to project what Minnesota line is going to see what Vegas line when this game isn't that great already, I think you're kind of putting yourself in a bad process type of situation and putting value on something that necessarily does not need the amount of value that you were putting on it. I'm not hating on line matchups. They work, but I can also find you a million line matchups that were supposed to be tough and they still produced. Because also it's not like that every time. It's not like their ice time is their ice time and they play against each other 100% of the game. So it's real noisy for me. I don't hate it, and I definitely put some value on it, but like it's gotta be low on your process list. You can't start off with looking at that and succeed, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely shows kind of like who is hot the last couple of games, but then you got to go back to see like, well, who did they play? Did the team they play against have a bunch of injuries and they're playing a bunch of different guys? Like, you don't know. I don't like target. I mean, I'm a Vegas fan, so maybe I'm a little biased, but I don't like targeting offenses against Vegas. Like when they had that, I think it was like a 4-game series with Colorado, I kind of stayed away from both teams in that whole series. I think they had one game that like scored a bunch of goals. Other than that, like they're both great defensive teams. Like Vegas is the best team in the league defensively this year. I think they're still allowing the fewest goals per game. So let's get into.
They're very elite.
Yeah, let's go to the Vegas.
This Minnesota side, just don't do it. All right, you got to take some stand somewhere. If you lost money not playing the Minnesota Wild tonight, you're not doing the wrong thing. All right, you're going somewhere in the right direction. But let's definitely get into this Vegas side because there is some value to be had here. Riley Smith is way too cheap on DraftKings. He plays good minutes. He has not been producing this year, I'll give you that, and maybe he overperformed last year. 3,300 in the top 6 in Vegas. He gets power play time. He's playing 16 minutes. It's too cheap for him, especially because Minnesota's probably overperforming as a team right now. And if you go to their game log, let me go pull up somebody from Minnesota real quick. I believe they have not been playing good hockey teams. I believe they have not played anybody who you would consider to be a top 10 team in the league. I'm about to confirm that right now. Let's see, Minnesota, Eriksson. Yeah. They got Vegas. I'll give them they played LA, Anaheim, LA, and then they overperformed in the Calgary series to me. But I just think Minnesota, people are too high on them right now for their price. So I think this is a good spot for Vegas. I think a good hockey team that plays a good style of hockey is really going to be able to lay it on Minnesota. I like Carlson as well. He's too cheap. It's a 3-center night, but I'm talking more GPPs right now. I think 3 implied goals for the team is way too low. I think they should be pushing 3.2, 3.3 range.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Talbot, he's been great this year. Like, don't get us wrong, but he's still not an elite goalie, and he can allow a ton of goals. I was just looking at left wing lock and morning skate tonight, so they went back to their basic normal lines for the last, I don't know, a couple of weeks. They got Pacioretty, Stevenson, Stone on the top line, Marchessault, Carlson, and Smith on the second line. I think that's definitely a big downgrade for Alex Tuch. I was looking at him for value, but that he's not playing on the top line, I'm a little off a little bit more. But he can still score on the power play. But like you said, like earlier with Toronto, their top power play unit is the one who gets most of the time on the power play. But I love going to Pacioretty. 25 shots the last 5 games. Like, he's a shot on goal machine. He's got 43 in his last 10. So if you're playing cash, I love him as a cash play. He's a little pricey on FanDuel, but you can make it work with the value that we have and still fit in 2 of the stud centers. And
it's hard to make it work on DraftKings.
What's his price on DraftKings? $7K?
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of the 3 centers in cash. I don't hate them if you want to like not play maybe McDavid because Edmonton hasn't been performing well and go to him. That's okay. But for my personal build tonight, Pacioretty would just have no chance to be able to fit in there. But I love him. I think he's a great play. He should be over 8,000 at all times, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I remember a couple years ago when Taylor Hall, when he was still in New Jersey, and like he was literally doing everything. He was scoring like 10 FanDuel points every single night. Every time he was under 7K, he was my first guy I plugged into my lineup. Pacioretty should be over 8,000, especially with his floor. It's so much better. I like Stone, Mark Stone. He's a GPP only play for me. He doesn't have the peripherals. He doesn't shoot, but he does get a bunch of assists. So if Vegas is scoring, he's probably going to be involved. But other than stacking him with his line or the power play line, I'm not playing him anywhere else.
I'm a big Petrangelo guy tonight. I think he's too cheap on DraftKings at 5,800. He's a tough one to fit for cash. I will say that you're probably not going to be able to pull that off if you build how I've been saying during this podcast. But 58 is too low for him. And they don't run. They run their top four defensemen a lot more than the other guys, especially Petrangelo and Theodore. They play together. They're a great threat to get on the score sheet, and his peripherals are great. I think Petrangelo at 5,800 is like laughable at that price. He's mid sixes at minimum.
Yeah, I mean, I love him, Theodore, and Martinez tonight. Like they're all great plays.
Is Martinez still like 4,300 for no reason on FanDuel?
He's still 4,100. He hasn't moved all season.
Yeah, that's almost auto lock to me on a per slate basis. That's Alec Martinez could be the peripheral king of defensemen, honestly.
Yeah, like Petrangelo.
That man knows how to fill up the shot on goal and block shot box score.
Yeah, he's got 18 blocks in the last 5 games, which is like absurd.
That's in the block bonus a game.
I think he's gotten it on DraftKings. Let's see, 1, 2, 3 of the last 5 games. And then earlier this year, he had it 1, 2, 3, 4 in a row, 5 out of 6. Like he just gets in front of the puck. Like he doesn't care about his body. He's gonna block the shot.
I'm a big Alec Martinez guy. Great fantasy play at 4,100. Almost auto lock to me if I started with him. I mean, that's just he's $5,000 defenseman minimum on FanDuel. 41's just ridiculous.
Yeah. So quick breakdown of this game. We're looking at Fleury, Pacioretty, Petrangelo, Martinez, Theodore, stack Stone in tournaments. Other than that, no one on Minnesota for me is really making it.
Yeah, no, I'll agree with that.
We'll go to
never mind. All right, we still got
our second to last game, Arizona and the Kings, both projected 2.8 implied totals. This is going to be a quick breakdown because for me, it's you're going to play one of the goalies. I really hope Peterson starts for the Kings because he's a great young goalie and he's going to be good. I mean, Arizona getting Garland back, I think is going to help them a little bit, but like their offense is so bad right now. So for me, it's Peterson. He's my value goalie. I hope he starts over Quick. I don't mind Quick if you want to go there, but I really do hope it's Peterson. Ranta, he's good for tournaments. I'm not playing him in cash though. One guy we'll start with the Arizona side because there's not a whole lot to like. One guy who is just too cheap and he should be probably $600 or $700 more is Jacob Chikrin. So what do you think about him?
It's definitely on FanDuel. He's priced where he should be on DK. But what did you say? He's like 42 on FanDuel,
44.
right? Yeah, no, that's still too cheap for him. He's another guy who should absolutely be over 5,000. He would be my limit for exposure to that team on FanDuel outside of maybe the goalie.
Yeah, I mean, if you start your lineup with Martinez and Chikrin, yeah, it's 8,500. Like fit in 2 studs, a value winger. You can pay up for Fleury, and there's a cash like an easy. It's so easy on FanDuel.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't mind that. I definitely also hope Calvin Peterson starts tonight. He's Mike Smith, oh geez, I can't believe his saves above expectation are so good right now. But Calvin Peterson's top 6 in the league right now. He's right behind Fleury and Jake Allen and Andre Vasilevsky, and Brian Elliott and Mike Smith. I definitely think are overperforming, but big favor to Peterson from Quick to me tonight. I will. If I figure out it's Quick, I might have to rearrange my cash line. But if it's Peterson, I'm set. But Peterson's my favorite cash goalie tonight. You got to pay up for the studs, so you're probably gonna have to get a cheap goalie in that time. It's kind of hard to get the 8K ones when you do that. And Peterson is definitely my favorite below the 8,000s.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at the last 10 on the research station, the Kings have allowed they're number 1 in goals against, 2.1 goals against, and Quick has been great. Like he's been really good this year, and he used to be like a stud goalie, and he kind of fell off last year and the year before that. But if it's Peter, so what I do personally for cash lineups, so I like a high price goalie and I like a cheap goalie. So what I start with is I'll start with the lineup I like with the expensive goalie, especially if like this Kings situation, we don't know who exactly is going to start. They're both the same price. Like FanDuel this year, they've put the backups and the number 1 as the same price all season. I think it's stupid. Like Michael Hutchinson should not be like 8,400 or whatever he is as a backup. But because they did that this year, they're easy pivots. So like my first lineup I made with Fleury, couple extra value guys, but then have a list of guys that you want to play but you can't because you're paying up more for a goalie. So then if that cheap guy is confirmed, you change it around, you save that money, and then you upgrade 1 or 2 other spots, and that just raises your floor.
I agree with that logic.
So that's what I do. So like I said, I made my preliminary cash with Fleury, and then if Peterson gets confirmed, I'll probably change it, and I have my pivots and my upgrades like ready to go. But other than that, I mean, I have no interest in Arizona.
Yeah,
really.
this game's a wash.
But
This game's a wash. So my only thing I have to God.
I kind of have some interest in the Kings power play though. Their top line has 6 power play goals in the last 10 games. Brown, Kempe, Aflalo, Doughty, and Kopitar. If you look at Arizona's penalty kill, they rank 21st in the last 10 games. So if you want to do a large field GPP and if you want to stack the Kings, even if you want to stack 3 of them on FanDuel with Peterson or Quick, if you do think they're going to win, then I would throw in Kopitar, Brown, and Doughty, and then throw in the goalie. That's what I would do in tournaments.
Yeah, I would say I thought that's all right with me just because there's only 6 games. There's not going to be you gotta pick somebody to play. Like there's only 6 games, but this game for me is definitely just a goalie game. The Kings are a little pricey too for me relative to their upside, but I like them to win this game regardless of the goalie. So that could just be me talking myself into Jonathan Quick if I have to do it, but the Kings are definitely a lot better of a hockey team than the Coyotes are right now.
Yeah, so goalies and Chychrun really, and kind of just move on from there. So we'll get into the last game. This one in the.
I got the Kopitar shirt under too. So
yeah, there you go. I do like Kopitar. I like him. I like him as a player. Not so much fantasy because he's always overpriced and always faults when
definitely that. He's one of those dudes that falls into good IRL, not good in fantasy.
So probably another fantasy gold mine tonight. Colorado and San Jose. Colorado implied total 3.6. San Jose 2.5. I think that's too low for San Jose with how they've been playing lately. This game has a lot of goodness. We'll start with the goalies. Grubauer, only in tournaments for me. He's too expensive to play in cash with how good the Sharks have been playing lately. But I don't mind him in tournaments. Like he can shut him down. He's been having a great season. Martin Jones, do not touch Martin Jones.
Yeah, no. For me, this game, DraftKings wise, the only one I'm really trying to touch in cash from from San Jose, Timo Meier, who's still way too cheap and has 6 points in his last 2 games. He's still only 4,400. Definitely should be a guy that's over 5. Big fan of him on that side. Ryan Donato's getting the PP1 again. He's playing third line, which isn't great, but he's definitely at least viable in some way at that price. And then on the Colorado side for me, it's definitely Nate Dogg. Big fan of him. Type of dude that you should be lock and loaded most slates when he's on them. Landeskog's still way too cheap on DraftKings at 54. Definitely is an over $6,000 type of guy. And for the ice time allotment and bump that Girard and Taves are going to see tonight, 41 still too low for Girard and 52 still too low for Taves.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of that. There's one guy who I think you missed from San Jose. He's
Your boy Evander.
No, I like Evander. I actually took him out of my core just because I really don't love the matchup, but he's been shooting like crazy. But no, this guy is 2,900 on DraftKings. He's 34 on FanDuel. Second power play line, or first power play line, second line with Timo Meier is Rudolph Balcers. 5 points in his last 5 games and 17 shots and blocks.
Yeah, he's definitely been performing. Timo's definitely helping him out a lot now that they're getting him online with someone who could drive play by themselves and him not necessarily have to do that. Definitely more of a punt play to me, but San Jose has shown an ability to score goals this year. They're streaky with it, but they could do it. Colorado has also shown some flaws in their defense, and they're missing Kyle McCarr, which is big. I mean, he's really good. That's a big bump to them as a team. They're still loaded regardless, but not having your best defenseman is not an amazing thing to happen.
Yeah, and he's cheap, so like if I'm building my cash lineup on FanDuel, if I have 3,400 left, I feel confident plugging him in.
But say he's definitely one of those guys that's a good punt tonight. He's definitely a punt with upside.
Yeah, and so Kane, Balcers, and Meier for me on the Sharks side. For the Avalanche, it is Nate McKinnon. He had 6 shots last game, just wasn't able to score. I think that's going to change tonight. I think their top line, along with their top power play line, like their top power play line looked very good. They were getting a lot of shots, and they just couldn't put it past them. But I think they're going to be able to get some past them tonight. I mean, San Jose ranks 28th in the league in the last 10 games with their penalty kill. And let's see, they're taking 3.5 penalties a game with a 68% penalty kill. Colorado's penalties 13% in the last 10 games. Like that's gonna change. Like their yearly is 24%. They're gonna score on the power play. Their top line, Landeskog, McKinnon, Rantanen, they're a great stack. They're still, again, my favorite stack tonight. Like the thing is when a stack fails like they did last game, you go right back to them. It might suppress their ownership, and then you still play them again, and then they score 4 or 5 goals, and you're soaring. So those 3 definitely my favorite stack. But I'll also add Nazem Kadri, like Kadri, however you say it. But he looked fantastic on the power play in the last game that I was watching. He was sniping. He has 16 shots in his last 5 games with 5 points. He gets that correlation with McKinnon on the power play, and they're probably going to see 3 to 4 power plays tonight. So I love using him with McKinnon, but I also love Devin Taves and Sam Girard on FanDuel too. Taves a little bit more just because he's $400 cheaper, and I don't think he's going to not shoot at all again tonight. So for me, top line, Kadri and Taves or Girard.
I would agree with that as well.
All right. Anything else you want to add on the slate tonight? I'll get to some questions here that are in the chat. A couple good ones. So do you have FanDuel pulled up right now?
I could do that. Something doing.
William asked 4,600 on FanDuel at center? Is there anybody that you're looking at? For me, there's not a ton down there.
Ooh, that is a gross range.
Yeah, it's not pretty. I mean, probably Getzlaf for his shots.
Yeah, Getzlaf's really all that's in that range to me.
I wish
you could chase the Victor Rask, I guess, but like outside of that, maybe Chandler Stevenson, but none of these guys are good options to me. Like
no one's really that great. Let's see who else we got here. This is a really good question, and something that I do quite often. What are your thoughts on playing guys that are hot, like Willie Nylander from Toronto?
As long as their value is not reflective of the fact that they're hot, like say he's hot and he was 4,900 and then he went up to 5,600, I no longer care that he's hot because I don't like him in that price range. But with him being around the same price recently and being hot, I do put value on it because of that, because he's still the same price and he's performing well.
Yeah, FanDuel, I mean, don't touch him on FanDuel for 6,600. But on DraftKings, his price hasn't really moved, so it's a good value piece. I think he's under 5K, right, on DraftKings?
Yeah, he's 49.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't hate it, but losing that top power play minutes for him are gonna hurt. But like, I love that I cover hockey and baseball because they're both two very streaky games, and that's why me personally, I look at last 5 and 10 for hockey and baseball. I look at the last 2 weeks just because like they're so streaky, things change like very quick. And it's better. Sometimes it's better to be on a guy, like when he's cold, and a great matchup, like Mika Zibanejad, for example. Great matchup last night. He was so chalky. He didn't even shoot. Like, but at that point, like you don't want to not play him and then have him score 2 or 3 goals.
Feel that.
Got another one. Prefer patches or pasta and cash if you had to pick one?
Patches.
Yeah, I would say patches too. He's cheaper, better matchup. Like Washington's not awful on defense, and Vanek has been really good. He also says, just like Fox is 4,500, price doesn't change. Fox was like 70% in cash last night, and that hurt me because I didn't play him. But his price, he was like 43 for like a month, and he was like scoring consistently like 8 points a game. Let's see. What are your thoughts on San Jose 2 tonight?
I mean, San Jose's definitely been overperforming lately. I could definitely see this be a spot where Colorado just routes them. I mean, Colorado's a way better hockey team than the San Jose Sharks are. That's a minimal exposure type thing to me today. I like Timo, like I said. I like more on DraftKings though than FanDuel, as he's more pricey on FanDuel. The Sharks are definitely way more in play than me on DraftKings than FanDuel.
Yeah. So that is all we have for questions in the chat right now. I know yesterday we showed you guys the cheat sheets, but I'm going to keep that for VIP members only because we can't give away all the free stuff. That's all the goodies, man. But if you do want to become a VIP member, use promo code Mdell, save yourself 10%. You get our Slack chat, you get everything on the website. You can sign up. We do Core 4 Sports now. You can do the whole package, which includes everything. Just sign up, get in Slack, ask questions. Hockey's definitely taken a big step forward this year. I think a lot more people are starting to be interested in it, and we're seeing a lot of successful lineups every single night. People winning good money, so it's definitely a sport that's up and coming in the DFS world, and I'm hoping that this podcast kind of grows it a little bit more.
Me too. I need more people to listen to me. You know, you guys got to feed my ego.
Yeah, I know, right? We need people listening. But hey, we got 100-something views the other night, so that's pretty good for a start. So tonight, any last thoughts on the slate before we head off?
If I had to pick one of the 3 stud centers not to play, because there are a good amount of mid value guys tonight, like Landy's too cheap, Nylander's too cheap, Myers too cheap, Gerard's too cheap, Taves is too cheap. So, like, if you're wanting more of a mid-range approach to your cash lineup on DraftKings tonight, McKinnon's a lock. Definitely, if I had to play one of them to play, it would be McKinnon. And I would probably rank it then McDavid and then Matthews. I do not think Matthews is getting rushed back tonight, but I will say that, like, I think Connor is not going to come out here and be like, oh, okay, I'm going to let you beat me and then me.
Yeah.
So definitely Matthews. If you don't want to play all 3 of them, I would be okay not playing him.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want, play 2 or 3 cash lineups and mix and match all of them. That way you have access to all 3 of them, because if they all go off, you probably won't be able to fit all 3 of them in a cash lineup, but pick 2 for one lineup and then keep one in your other lineup and throw the other guy in there. I mean, the only reason on FanDuel that I have Matthews over McDavid is just because of pricing. I think he's like $600 cheaper.
Yeah, that makes a difference. That makes a big difference.
No problem playing McDavid. Like, he's gonna score. I mean, I'm not gonna be surprised if he doesn't get 3 points tonight.
All right, guys. I think that does it.
That does it for tonight. Hit us up in Slack. Make sure you tag us so we get the good old notification, or else we might miss it. Any questions there? And we'll see you guys at the top of the leaderboard.
All right, boys.